Are you guys muted? I can't hear anything.
Uh-oh.
Thank you.
We did the Pledge of Allegiance. We covered a lot of ground here, so
I saw you. I saw the movement, so thank you.
thank you for being here, Councilor Martinez.
For having me.
So Lori, anything submitted ahead of time in terms of,
Nothing,
comment?
Chair Lawson.
all right, and then we have a guest this evening. Any public comment?
No comment, no. Just sending.
Perfect. Well, we're a pretty rambunctious group, so hopefully we can entertain you tonight. Okay, we'll go ahead and jump to approval of our last meeting's minutes, which was not in July, it was in June. We took July, with the 4th holiday. I took that month off. So we'll pull up June's meeting minutes here. We discussed some of the unfinished business of Glencoe Opportunity subgroup update, as well as the downtown business subgroup update. For the opportunity area, the subgroup reported they are in the data gathering phase. Reached out to the food carts on the corner of Commercial and Glencoe there to gather some insights and see if there's been any obstacles or challenges to getting their business started, to see if that might give us some insights into ways we can help future businesses. And looking forward to another update this meeting as well. The downtown business subgroup gave their update that they were coordinating with local businesses and presented kind of a summary of their recent engagement with the chamber. And that kind of spurred a suggestion to have a work session. We were hoping for maybe this meeting or next meeting, and it sounds like we'll chat that some more, but next meeting will be our scheduled work session with the chamber. We've had one applicant for the food service grant last meeting, Blackwater Coffee. So Floyd Addison and his consultant Gabe Martinez were in attendance, and we reviewed their application for this food service tenant improvement grant. And had some good conversation with them, had some good questions, good feedback. And we moved to approve the application for the food services grant for Blackwater Coffee. And then last couple items we got into was some discussion around the community development monthly update report. Some ongoing projects that might affect the economic growth, downtown development, and the EDC in general. And then lastly, some updates from our finance director, Bill Reed, on some of the Glencoe Opportunity Area abatement process and the property that was on that land as well. Any questions, go backs from the group from last meeting minutes?
Make the motion to approve the minutes.
I second.
Okay, all those in favor of approving June's meeting minutes, say aye.
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 All those opposed, say nay. Okay, looks like we have consensus to approve June's meeting minutes for the Economic Development Commission. I feel like the feedback is turned up so that I can hear myself more. I don't know if I like it or. It's fine, we can roll with it.
Let me check.
People always hear your voice. I think I do. It's not a problem.
We're getting ready for karaoke night afterwards.
Yeah.
Got the mic set.
Mr. Brightside by the Killers.
That's a good one. Okay.
Honestly, I don't know which one to turn. So you're.
I'm good. I'm just, yeah,
I think
yeah,
so.
I'm okay.
I can't even hear myself. We're good.
Got it.
That's
Red
the
button,
one.
red button.
Red button.
It's got a bunch of checks today. So
Yeah.
or processed a
Thank
bunch
you.
of checks.
All right,
I sent an offer letter day before
we can
yesterday.
move into
so-
some unfinished
Wait,
business.
Monday, yes.
We'll go through an update from the Glencoe Opportunity Area Subgroup, as well as an update from the Downtown Business Subgroup. We'll discuss the work session with the chamber that we have scheduled for the September meeting, September 4th. So we can talk through topics we want to discuss, any questions we have specifically for the chamber, kind of start framing out how we want that work session to go. And then we can get into any other topics that might come up throughout the meeting. Any hot or pressing items at the top here before we get into updates from our subgroups? No,
Lively
Wednesday,
tonight.
it's going well.
I haven't looked yet, but I hope so.
I'm sure it is, it's hot. People want ice cream and froyo. Okay, we'll start with the Glencoe Opportunity Area Subgroup. Anyone want to take the ball with those updates from that group?
So we gathered some data. I think you may have seen Lori sent out what we had gathered. I think one of the files might be a duplicate of one of them, but there's definitely a ton of data in there. What I'm thinking I'd like to do is we work with our group and piece out some of the high points of what, there's a lot in there, that some of which probably isn't even things that might necessarily deal with what we're dealing with, but I'm thinking we can I can pour through it with our help and see what little points we can bring up that we can attach or attack. It sounds like there's not much in the way of brochures or literature. I guess that's an opportunity area for us to create some things, and since you have a graphic designer in the mix, that'd definitely be something I would love to tackle with fervor. So yeah, that's sort of where we are. Really.
I can pull up anything that you. If you want to look at any of those documents that I emailed to everybody, I can pull anything
I'd
up.
say probably the main one might be that, let's see, it says, the title name is number 05 NP Economic Dev. Survey. I think there's a duplicate of that one, but that seemed to be as our the one that would give us the most to chew on.
Okay,
A summary.
I'm not sure
Yeah.
actually if it's here.
Yeah, there's
Where's the
the
commissions?
survey, well, there's survey results. That sort of gives an overall sort of look at what what they tried to gather. There was one that didn't look to be.
I'm not sure if it's all in here. Oh, it is
Survey.
this one or,
Oh, then
This one.
also. The business survey data one would probably be a good one to look at.
see, I gotta get it some other way. We get it through email.
There you go. Cindy.
You may drive it now.
Yeah.
Is it doing it? What does it
No, it's
say?
asking probably to convert the text to readable or something along those lines. I think that's. I
Yeah.
love Adobe.
It's working.
See,
Yes, I mean, this one, obviously, I guess the data is somewhat older, so maybe some of these specifics about, laying off people, how many employees. I'm not sure how helpful that might be to us. I'm sure there's something in here we can use. The one that I really thought was interesting was that number 05. What's talking about what attracted you in your business in North Plains. Yeah, it's a different document. It's titled number 05 NP Economic Dev.
Go down a little farther in my emails. To his name.
It actually might be duplicated in that last email you got. Lori. Oh, there it is. Yeah, right now, yeah, that up one.
This one?
There you go. This one, I liked because it, what attracted your business from North Plains, and seeing what points we may want to attack when we're looking at marketing materials. I mean, yeah, challenges we face doing business. as you go further down. That one I think is pretty important. It's interesting that a lot of these, and not, I guess not surprisingly, the other is a pretty large section, which I guess makes sense because there's a lot of different things that, like, you'll see in that first section. People are saying, you know, born here, you know, there was an opportunity to purchase a business which was too good to pass up. So I feel like personally, this document is probably the first one that is gonna give us the data we need to start putting out some marketing materials to answer some of these questions and these points that are important to people.
How long ago did this survey?
6.
6 years?
Yeah,
Wow,
some
we've
of
had a
the
lot
data
of
might
business.
not-
I'd love to
Yeah.
see 'em serve
Added a lot of
Yeah.
businesses since
Yeah.
then, so.
like transportation. It's got and it added what route? So that would
Yeah.
definitely be less of a factor now. Yeah, I'd love to see updated.
Well, I think that's part of the reason that you guys want to meet with Chamber, because they're the ones that really helped get this survey out, right?
The survey. We have a city recorder that's really on to me if I don't speak into the mic. So. Anyway, she happens to, yeah, I happen to be in her office. So anyway, so the survey you're looking at here that Mike, I agree, has more information that's probably more salient, at least in terms of questions and answers. This is the second one you're looking at. This was actually led by the Economic Development Committee. And the chamber assisted with it. The first survey that we opened up first that was in 2020, that was a much bigger survey that was done solely by the chamber, and the emphasis was what's COVID done to your business. So I guess there's probably good info in both of these, but if you think about it, things were going a certain way in 2019. The following year was a tsunami of economic stuff. And there's just a lot happened in the last 5-6 years. So I think it's a valiant point that a new survey might be a good idea. But I'm willing to bet there's a lot of the same businesses you have as you did in 2019, not all, but a lot. And I bet you find some kind of common threads anyway with 2019.
So if we wanted to initiate a new survey that was similar to this one, at least the one that's the 05 ND Economic Dev, how did the commission or committee go about launching that? How did they, I'm sorry.
I was gonna say, I think it goes hand in hand with the next work session with having the chamber come in and build that partnership. I mean, we've been looking for questions to ask them to then ask businesses. I mean, it looks like we have a roadmap already for that in place. So we came up with some questions, but instead of reinventing the wheel, I think one, comparing answers with the same questions now is going to give us better data than if we create new questions. So I think just presenting this in our next work session with them and getting the buy-in and then just moving forward with it, maybe make some tweaks, but I think if we had the same questions, we can compare data.
And if I remember, they actually sent it out to their distribution list, is that right? If I remember, those who were here,
I was gonna say, for my time.
I know, Eric.
I don't remember, because I sent out one at one point for everybody too, but
Or maybe it was based on what their.
Do you remember?
Maybe it was the business list that of businesses in North Plains.
I know somebody with the address list for every commercial water account in the city of North Plains. Well,
I think I used the business license.
yeah, Lori has the business license list. Between the two, I think one thing to keep in mind about the chamber is that their charge is the greater North Plains area. And I think things that this body does that generally help businesses in the area is great. But since this is a city advisory body, that's probably something to keep in mind as you think about this survey. And the other thing I guess I would say is take a look at these questions and think about them in terms of, I think the survey and the questions are great in terms of just understanding business in North Plains. If there's anything I personally would tweak, if it were me, I would give thought to how the questions are worded or what is asked in a manner that gets at what this body can help with. not necessarily just generally what are the different business factors that are good, bad, this, that sort of thing, but you all have kind of stepped into roles and directions with things. And maybe that can a little more inform the next set of questions that you do.
I think, not to get too far in the weeds, I would love to be able to quantify this a little better in terms of. So we can essentially have a declarative statement and then what's called the Likert scale, where you'll have a statement that, let's say, I feel the city provides necessary, you know, I don't know, services for me to get my business up and running within the first 60 days. 0 or 1 would be strongly disagree, all the way up to 5 strongly agree.
Mhm.
And that would give us a better barometer in terms of what we're seeing the businesses agree with or disagree with and areas of focus. And we could essentially take these same questions and break them out. Those could be our domains that we focus on. And within those domains, we have a number of Likert style statements that we could get some more data on. But I do like the idea of asking the same question to try to get a more of an apples to apples approach. But it's kind of, like I said, it's a little probably too far in the weeds, but we can maybe think through that lens when we talk to the chamber of like what type of data we want to get, what we would do with that data when we receive it. I think is like ultimately what we're looking for,
Mhm.
like what type of decisions or things that would help us drive towards. So those are just my thoughts.
Well, I guess we can just look at the questions, see what would be more effective, what we can get rid of, what we can expand upon.
So for order of operation, as the next step, the subgroup will come back with a proposed draft. That would feed into a step of the conversation with the chamber. Are those parallel? Is that the order you want to see it in?
I would more so was thinking we would discuss, maybe have like an outline or some ideas of the domains we want to focus on and then work with the chamber to nail down specific items we want to gather data on. That's where my thought would, instead of trying to build out a full survey ahead of time.
Who's meeting with the chamber?
We,
All of them.
We will-
All of us, yeah.
Okay.
in September,
In
so,
September. Okay, got it.
Yep.
Okay, so perfect.
and that's where it would be, if you need help from different commission members.
Yeah.
It's not like it's solely on your subgroup to build it all out, because
No,
we'll all be discussing with the.
I mean, it really bleeds right into our subgroup as well, which is partnership with the chamber. So that's why, I mean. Sorry. Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. No, I think that's why having this discussion tonight just makes sense. Having this be the bulk of our work tonight, because it is bleeding the two subcommittees together. And so it would just be, I hate to use the word, would it be fair to go away and be like, all right, it's our group set up the meeting, but you guys are doing all the work for it. So we have the time tonight. I think let's dive into it.
I appreciate that because I've never done anything like this, like asking these questions, getting businesses responses and things like that. So any help would be great.
And quick question. In terms of the businesses and food cars. Those are at the corner of commercial and Glencore. Have we received any real data from them in terms of the challenges their businesses are facing so far?
They're so new.
Yeah, just like qualitative data in terms of, I think, asking them questions, how they've been, right? I can't remember which subgroup it was, reached out to Ken, correct, and Cognizant, was that the?
Yeah, I'm asking because I see here from the previous meetings that the Glencore opportunities of reach out to the food cars, the businesses. So I wanted to find out whether we have received their feedback as to the fundamental challenges they are facing.
Oh,
So
okay,
that we can summarize that also as
Okay.
Part of the report or can feed into our discussions.
Yeah. I don't know if we have heard back from. And.
He's popped in a couple times, but right now he's worried about who's gonna be parking in his lot during Garlic.
Garlic Fest, yeah. Valid concern.
Yes,
Yeah, he would. be
Hopefully
a-
people
a
find
great
food.
Source of. information.
I mean, it's his property, he can charge. Yeah, so. But he hasn't said anything other than that, I mean, regarding the cartons that are there themselves. So I think you would want to obviously include them in the survey, even though they weren't around
Mhm.
for the first one.
Yeah. So then maybe we, discuss the downtown subgroup updates, if there's any there, and then we can jump back to our new business item, which is just discussing the work session, which in turn will be mostly discussing the survey and then different topics we want to cover too.
Downtown group met. We went to the food trucks, and I will say, if you haven't been, go eat the barbecue, it is delicious. So plug for our local businesses. Yeah, I mean, we have a list of questions, but I'd say this is a better start than what we have, and so I think just working off of this is the biggest thing. Yeah, I think if we knew this would existed, I would have just said from the beginning, let's work off of this.
I think when we met, our thoughts were more doing actual outreach to businesses, so
Yeah.
more on a smaller scale. That's where our questions are more oriented now. Is coordinating, talking to business, the chamber about, okay, these are the questions we're thinking of that we'd like to ask, and how are we going to coordinate these visits and that kind of thing.
I think there's a way, yeah, that was, we were talking about, putting this essentially a scheduling tool out there that we could schedule meetings with business owners and have these discussions. I think there's a way to marry the two, essentially have the survey, and then at the bottom of the survey, say, invited to have an open-ended discussion over coffee or tea or whatever it is. And then have that be an option if they want to pursue that, but at least get the survey responses back that we can work with that data. And then give the business owner the opportunity, if they want to have a deeper discussion, to then schedule a meeting that we can go out with in partnership with the chamber and have that conversation. So I think it's taking the two subgroups and just smashing them into one and just coming up with something really cool. Smash it.
Very elegant.
Nothing but elegant.
Okay, great. So then, in that case, we can maybe review the previous document, decide kind of the topics that we want to cover. In that, we would discuss those topics with the chamber,
Mhm.
if they align on, this is the type of information that we would want to get. And then kind of use that as our jumping off point. So then, question one, what attracted you and your business to North Plains? Kind of gets at. If there's any. Kind of competitive advantages to North Plains, like what is unique about North Plains that attracted the business and how we can capitalize on that. Essentially is what that question's asking, I would imagine.
Although I'm going to be the contrarian and throw out that one of the challenges with asking that question is we don't have a lot of land to offer to attract more businesses right now.
Yeah.
So even if we find out, I don't know how we can capitalize on it at the moment. The place that comes up for me is we have a seat on the urban growth boundary. And this gives us something other than, well, we think it's really good for business. We have queried our existing businesses and received this feedback.
Mhm.
So Eric, you have that role. I haven't been in those meetings. If you would find that help, like a more formalized position. That would be the only reason, given where we are right now.
Well, and also, do you see these answers as leading to material for marketing materials and other things like that? I mean, is it purely for that end, or, I mean, is it, what other things are we wanting to do with this data? I guess?
Yeah, I think a good point is, we had the urban growth boundary on the ballot last year and it got shot down. A lot of that was because of people just felt like there wasn't information and there wasn't enough information out there. So I think gathering this work and coming with informed and then going back to the UGB, it's no longer we're growing because, I know that a lot of work went into surveys before and said why we should, but I think surveying the people and then saying, hey, this is what we're hearing from residents as well of why we need to do this, I think it will help in those efforts down the road. So I think there is material change that can come from it as far as supporting the city's growth, as far as UGB, but then also the marketing material, because once that happens, we need to market to businesses that could then call North Plains home. So I think it's a both end.
Well, I was gonna say, how about marketing for existing businesses? Isn't that part of the marketing scope to attract
Yeah.
more customers to existing businesses?
Yeah.
I don't know. I think there's a question later on, or I saw it in the comments, actually. It says land. Location and land. It doesn't say, do you need space for rent? Like, it doesn't try to get at what you're looking for. Are you looking to build? Are you looking to rent? You want commercial space? You want industrial space?
Yeah, because you can say, I like your location, you're close to Hillsborough, close to this, or you got land open to the north. I mean, there's two things that can be.
Yeah.
in land.
And Bill's made the point, there's a big difference between land shovel ready and it's ready for lease. So I don't know if I liked your I was on board with your Likert scale, but I don't know if there's a way to also get at get a little more out of what they're looking for.
Well, I know, like, as a graphic designer, if I was trying to, for instance, make a brochure for a business or a city or anything, there are definitely questions I would ask that would let me know what I need to design that, how I need to design that. So, but it sounds like we're not just using this data for that, it's gonna be used for a lot of other things, but I know I could parse out these answers, some of them for that purpose.
Okay, so what are the questions you would ask to make a brochure?
Well, I mean, there'd be things that, specifics like, color scheme and look and all that stuff, but as far as raw data, I mean, it'd be things like, what do you want to say? What do you want to let people know about your business? What are the things that you think make your business different? What are weakness areas you might want to highlight and address? What's your audience? What do you see your audience as? What audience are you not reaching that you'd like to reach? Things like that. And I can go through and, as a designer, ask the questions I would want to ask and then integrate that into maybe whatever we sort of come up with here, or at least review what we've come up with and then say, oh yeah, well, I'd also want to ask this. I can do that.
Well, I'm thinking about the questions that we came up with,
Mhm.
and we definitely, want to ask about challenges.
Yep.
For the businesses, I think still relevant and can help us know what we can do potentially for the businesses. So that's a high on my list.
And under the challenges to, I think, one of the key questions to the cost of doing business, especially for those existing business. So the cost of doing business, so that when we break it down, for instance, how satisfied are they with rental space charges, utilities, etc. Yeah.
Again, I'm gonna be a contrarian. I'm thinking, okay, as a committee, so then what can we do?
About that.
Yes.
Yeah, I guess you're right. Even if they said, the cost of water is too high,
I would say support growth so that the overall population base
Yeah,
funds the infrastructure.
No, I think one of the things we can do, I mean, we have, especially now that we're moving towards a formal quarterly report to the city council. That's stuff that we can include in our report to city council. So while we as a body can't make changes, we can go before the body that can. That has the control over it and say, hey, here's the barriers that we're hearing from our businesses on how they're being, like, the challenges they're having at being successful. So I think the point is, yeah, we are a body that recommends, that gathers data, that does a lot of the legwork, but then we have to get in front of the folks that make the final say, and that is city council. And so including that in our quarterly report will be a big component of it.
I wonder, adding on. If the question, David, wouldn't be evolved just slightly, instead of how satisfied are you? Something that gets to, is the cost of running business a barrier to success? Because I'm sure no one's satisfied with the utility bill. But it's another question to ask, is it a barrier to your company's success, or a better way to word it, not trying to get into wordsmith, but maybe just the declarative statement, working on that down the road.
Overall, I feel the city's cost of doing business is fair.
it's interesting, in question 3, it says, what can the city do to support your business success? And the biggest one is marketing and advertising. So, but I think that's a good.
To Amy's point, public transportation was about 30% of the answers too, and that has changed a bit, just in terms of adding stops and whatnot, so. It would be interesting to get current data structure.
And Amy, I'm somewhat ignorant. What is the current transportation availability and schedule? I don't know. Oh, okay. I just know that we added some stops recently.
Mhm.
There was a whole conversation about that in the chamber meeting, right? So I think they added at least 1 or 2 more stops here in North Plains, but we also have the option of like an on-call stop. If somebody needs to be picked up, I think you can call ahead and schedule to be picked up or dropped off for certain things, or I don't know, if you're even limited to what that thing is, but I think we have the option to call and say, hey, we need to be picked up at this time, and they can find a way to accommodate that. I don't know much more specifics, but I know that was a conversation that was definitely.
I'm there right now.
More recent. Okay.
I'm wondering on question 4, if that, I mean, because this is gonna go out to the chamber, the contact list that chamber has. The question 4 is, what type of business or businesses do you feel would complement the businesses that are already established here? Is that a helpful question to current businesses? Because if they said, well, I guess, I don't know, I mean, if a variety of them or a majority of them say a certain, type, is that something we know we need to focus on? How much power do we have in that?
I think it goes back to, we don't, as a group, don't have much power. However, we have the ability and the tie-in with the folks who would have more decision-making power to just elevate things and flag, like, hey, this is what the current business base is saying about XYZ, like, for example, newsflash, a grocery store would be great. We could give them those hard-hitting insights. But if there's I kind of see it as like if there's any blind spot, I guess, in terms of things that city council might not be aware of or be considering in some of the decisions they're making or information that they're gathering.
It'd be interesting to ask the same question to business owners and ask it to the citizens
Residents.
to see if residents. I have a feeling it'd probably match up with this. Now, we have definitely more restaurants now, so it'd be interesting to see if that went down and something else came up. But that would be interesting to.
Good point.
Can I add something? Might be jumping the gun because I'm essentially a month early, but,
Can you tell us who you are?
oh, sorry, I'm Dan Gerbis. I'm a business owner on Great Master down the street. I'm part of the chamber and Cindy asked me to join and I.
Then he sent in a mole, you know?
Just looking at the questions, I think you're gonna get a lot of noisy data. Because if you're asking a business what they need, a home-based business, an industrial business, a
Yep.
commercial and a retail business, those four different ones will have different needs. That's gonna kind of confound what you're trying to get out of this. So you might need another.
Something to qualify and put them in a category.
Yeah, and in some cases, the question would apply, like, do you need more employees, do you need more transportation, but. Like what kind of land you need or what complementary. Services or businesses you need would be way different from. Some author in the, in a home-based business versus me trying to run big trucks through. Versus a retail shop that needs a lot of foot traffic. Those are really, really different needs that would unfortunately, just the way the questions are, it would get really noisy.
Yeah.
Like you might be getting the right question, but the conclusion can be wrong.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. We would
We
probably
need,
have to establish demographic data up front where we can bucket. The potential maybe location, if it's a downtown corridor. What style of business it is. Maybe the industry, general industry sector it belongs to, some of that data, so we can start correlating those. But yeah, that's a great point. Thank you.
no, yeah, cause yeah, the person, like you said, the home author is not, I need more employees, I need people to have transportation to get here, and then we're gonna get data back that says. No, and it's like, well, that's in the same place as. Your business that does need people, you need drivers, and so, yeah, a little bit different.
But to his point, I've seen a lot, like there's the lady who bakes sourdough bread from her house. I think there's another baker
Yeah.
that's Hawaiian. I mean, there's a lot of businesses that people are just doing out of their house that we can still support. I mean, the North Plains residents, they bring, something to the. So maybe that's something I'll do too, is start looking to see what other businesses I can find that are at home businesses that you just see on a Facebook page or wherever.
And Lori, those should all be on the business registry?
Should be.
In theory.
In theory.
I mean, every month we find a couple of businesses that have been here for quite a while that we were unaware of.
Okay.
So, and that doesn't mean that they automatically want to give us their information and get a business license. We're still kind of wrestling with a couple of them, but yeah, I mean, I have a list. We've added more businesses to the business license list in the last 8 months than we have in all the years that I've been working here, and that's almost 8.
Mission accomplished.
A lot of them are,
We are putting up historic numbers.
we are, honestly, a lot of them are subs for the Public Works building, but they still have to have a business license, but then there are still some longtime businesses here that I'm.
Yeah.
That I'm fighting with, so.
Interesting.
So for instance, so that lady that sells sourdough out of her house, she has to get a business
Mhm.
license and all that.
Mhm. Yep. A home, yeah, they have to because we have a business license. And then there's also a home occupation business license. They're two different things. And there's a temporary vendor license for like these subs that are only on the job for 3 months instead of, continually doing work all year long. And I've kind of got them, you know, I put a T behind the temporary ones that are temporary vendors, but other than that. The rest of them aren't differentiated by commercial or home occ or whatever. They're all just one big list. And I am more than happy to share that list with you guys if you're interested. There's a lot of data on there.
Yeah, I think, I mean, to that point, it probably would be helpful just in this exercise. Actual like survey answers aside, just trying to gather some more demographic data on size of businesses. Locations, like if it's at home or storefront.
And we've just started, last year, their fee is a set annual fee, but then there's a cost per full-time employee that goes along with that, so that we kind of get a feel for, you know, how much traffic one business is bringing in, because they have 100 employees and this company has 2.
Right.
So that's, you know, that's another way we're gathering that kind of information, so.
So question 5 is how long have you been in business in North Plains? Is that a valuable metric?
I think so.
I think goes back to the setting the demographics, put that in the demographic area, and that'll give us some info.
All the rest of the questions are demographic, so we've left the meat.
Okay.
If we,
You know, since we have that one, maybe do a bucket instead of. A free form, on
Yeah.
how many years have you been in business?
And, question 7, how many businesses do you own / operate?
Mhm.
Good one.
They're pretty specific though, in terms of like,
Yeah, how helpful is that?
I mean, it could certainly be.
If you have to pick and choose, I would say that.
What would you use that question for? Because, for instance, you could have 2 businesses, but it's one, you got a holding company and an
Yep.
operating company. Is that 2 or would that be 1?
Great question, we'd have to define it.
Exactly what I was thinking.
Okay.
You own real estate, get a holding company.
Mm.
Yep.
Yeah, no employees. So really, we would take a lot of these questions and kind of front load them in just the. For any other questions that ask, we just take that in the demographic data, that's very similar, I think, to what this would be.
Are there any questions that are not on here that we would like to ask?
Is there anything specific about what marketing materials or efforts would help you?
was that question 3? I kind of felt like we might have skipped over question 3. That maybe didn't get specific enough.
Yeah, 3, what can the city do to support your business success, which the #1 answer is marketing and advertising. Can I get another question? What type of materials would you?
Yeah, I think ask them, how do you generally market to your customers? Is it social media? Facebook Marketplace, print, you know, whatever it is, so figure out how they market first and then how we can support those efforts. Cause if they're like, everyone's like social media and we're like, let's do pamphlets. They're like, thanks for pamphlets, we use social media, so.
Take a picture of the pamphlet.
Maybe one that, not just marketing materials, maybe events grouped into that as well. They can help market their business.
Because you say it would be someone to approach to be in one of those. Of course.
Or there's something, yeah, we could do as a city supporting event that could help their business. Attract people here, attract people who would go to their businesses.
Yes, does the chamber do anything for small business week right now? So I
Small
know-
business, no.
No. I mean, that's something that we could do. I know when I was in Forest Grove, the chamber ran with it, and it was. I mean, they would gather a lot of marketing material, it was support local small businesses, and it's a whole week, it's like I think it's right after Black Friday, and it's the following week, it's shop local. And so everyone out there had a lot of marketing material around, the chamber was blasting it. Every single day, there was an ad about a local business and like what they did, a little snippet. I mean, that's something that we tangibly can partner with on the chamber and make that initiative moving forward.
Yep.
I think a small business, or small town like ours has to participate in that week. That is so key.
Great.
Another, I'm probably getting off track, but just another example I thought of is the one time I did get to go to some of the, what is it, the Oregon small business, the Main Street Oregon. That they had ideas of things cities had done to bring people into businesses, like
Yep.
an incentive to stop at buy something for 5 of the businesses, or something like that. That's something again, as a city that we could think about too. That may not help Great Master though.
Do you know what the details, any of the details, like what type of thing that they did to incentivize?
One of the examples they gave is you get a free cookie cutter if you make it was at Christmas, a purchase at a small business. And I think the city bought all the cookie cutters and stocked them at different stores. So you could get a different cookie cutter at each store that you bought something else. So.
Cool.
That was.
Like a scavenger hunt.
Yeah.
Kind of sort of price, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and when Forest Grove did the shop local, there was like a bingo thing that all the businesses did together. And so like you'd go in and you'd say, hey, I stopped in at the art show, I looked around, and I got them to sign my bingo card, and then you brought that back to the chamber at the end of the week. And the chamber had something that they would hand out. And so it was something that was engaging, drew people into different businesses, even if they didn't shop, it just brought in foot traffic, so people knew it was there. And that was the whole point, was just marketing, getting them in the door to see what's there, and a lot of them bought it.
It can almost be like that McMenamin's passport.
Yeah, yeah.
Although I've been in McMenamin's where someone just comes in, gets a stamp and leaves. It's gonna be-
At least they came in the door.
Yeah, it's-
Thing that we've talked around as a business is doing, kind of partnering with each other in where, say, a receipt from Happy Play. If someone was to come in our business and provide us a receipt for that day, they would get $1 off their yogurt or something like that. So maybe working for us having a discussion to maybe think about other businesses doing something like that.
Yeah.
It could be a way to support the other businesses by saying, okay, well now if Melly's, if they bring in a receipt, or if Melly's brings in a receipt from Cup of Go, maybe there's, $1 off, or that way we can support each other and help build up our businesses in town. I mean, I don't know if right now this place is the right way, the right time to bring that up, but if when we're talking about.
6:51, you guys are kidding.
Internally.
They could do a new bylaw.
Yeah, I think it's definitely
They could do a new.
worth discussing if we get into different programs that we can implement and things like that.
We partner with the schools, do like the passbooks where you get local businesses to put coupons in there, have the kids could do it to sell, raise money for the school, and then also drives people into the business. I've seen that program in other small towns too, that works really well. Because it's getting all the parents involved, and especially for like our retail and restaurants in town, I mean, that's really the folks that we're looking at, to stop in at those places.
Whenever the schools are always looking for new fundraising.
Yeah. It brings the business community and the schools together to hopefully bring more awareness around what we have in town.
Let me ask, as a business without a big retail front, what are the kind of questions we could ask that would be valuable for us to know?
For me, it's more land and space. I'm landlocked,
Okay,
and in order to grow, I have to move. To really truly grow, I have to move, not because it's bad here or anything, but I physically have no boundary I can push out, so I'd have to go to a new lot, a larger lot. Or a larger shop, basically. And then it gets really complicated because I have to be in a certain zone. I can't just be in any commercial zone. I need industrial. And as y'all are pretty well aware, open industrial space is really hard to get. Especially when we're trying to own the land as well as work it. So, what type of land or what, for me, it would be like, what's the barrier to growth? And what usually works well is if you narrow down, you guys already know what answers you want to find. More land, more retail, more foot traffic, more. And you know, have like a checklist of all the things you guys were just talking about. And I can go and say, yeah, I could use a 5-acre lot. I could use, you know, easy truck access, or a hardware store would be really nice in town, you know, that sort of stuff.
But I did like that we did have that at least open comment with that survey, that if you, then you could go into detail about these are the things I just.
Yeah. Otherwise, and nothing's coming to mind, but that's what jumps to mind in terms of my biggest barrier to growth would be space.
I guess that's a place where if you had I had a hard time say attracting employees, you could put that kind of thing forward, or the travel time for employees. or
Yeah,
something.
right, yeah,
Okay.
yeah, that'll be another, or, yeah, just attracting the talent that we need. It's one thing that we can get an employee, but to get a particular skill set might be difficult.
And anecdotally, can I just ask you, is there something about North Plains that makes it hard to attract that skill set?
It's generally, well, people be North Plains. Is that in Oregon? It's over there. It's in there, and you know, they start looking, and it's the lack of awareness, where if it was Hillsborough, it's like, oh, yeah, I know where that's at, that would work for me, but North Plains. It doesn't jump out as like, I know where that's at.
And an easy commute.
And an easy commute, right, yeah, and in fact, I just bought the company about 4 years ago now. The only employee I lost was an employee that lived in the southeast. And another job came up and it was more or less a 45-minute commute versus 15. What one? But yeah, the commute can be difficult. It depends on who it is. I haven't had too much trouble finding people, but I'm not growing that fast right now, so I'm not really adding a lot of heads in. And the challenge is, what is North Plains? Where is it? And if someone's already established in a school system and whatnot, it's really hard to convince them to, you know, do an extra 20-30-minute commute.
Yeah, especially if they can't afford to buy a house there or something.
Well, yeah, and yeah, if there's
Or rent a
housing or
place.
apartments or any of that
Yeah.
available.
Okay, noted for your materials. Where is North Plains?
You know, the exit that you take to go to Glencoe High School, turn right instead of left.
Have you addressed the topic of what you need to attract employees, attract and retain? I don't know, do we have a question that we've circled on that?
No, but that's a good question.
It is, I know that you're talking to even do it Cameron a little bit, that they talked about, we don't have a place to have business lunches in town. We don't have a place for employees to eat. I'm sure there are other employers who have, I mean, it's getting much better that we do have some places to eat, but that was definitely a concern for some employers.
Well, when I was working through Cameron, it's funny that a lot of the employees that didn't live here, that lived in Portland or lived in Gresham, were like, where's already in town? Like, they didn't even know about some of the places that you could go. Like, they just hadn't been through town to see, so even they didn't know, and they were working in town.
Yeah, I think the question is, what barriers are there to attracting talent to run your business?
Or I have what I need to attract talent, and then a question that says, If not, you know, what is your barrier? I'm working really hard to conform to Eric's. Declarative statement.
Thank you, Jay.
I have a quick question. In terms of I'm not sure if the question is more to long. In terms of the challenges and the permitting for doing business, is there a legal requirement for businesses to be licensed in North Plains? I'm asking because people can register businesses and they may not be licensed. Right. So that if there's nothing in place like that, what can we do to encourage people to come out and like, you know, license their businesses?
Yeah, so by city code, businesses have to register for a license with the city of all kinds and all sizes. And the primary purpose of that is to basically know who's in town, what they're doing, what kind of business they have, and what the likelihood is that they might be a public safety or insurance or hazard problem. That's really the idea. And the bigger the business and the more multifaceted the business, their fee goes up. And that's just because they become more complicated and a bigger public service issue and monitoring thing for the city. Having said that, our fees for business licenses are among the cheapest in the cities in Washington County, and they've been set that way. One thing I want to, you know, I was in the private sector for 22 years before I joined the city, so I don't come at you as a lifelong bureaucrat when I say this, okay? But after 5 years of being the finance director at the city of North Plains, I really, really hope that when you ask about the cost of doing business in the city, you're very specific about your questions that get at permitting costs and the cost of this and the cost of that with the city, because we have the lowest levy rate in the county that you pay on property taxes, one of the lowest business license fees, street maintenance fees, one of the lowest in the, I mean, all the impact fees that you pay when you build a new building, we have among the lowest in the county. I mean, we really do, this city really does, even though we do have to charge fees and costs for certain things. It just is how it is. I mean, we have infrastructure and public services that we have to provide. But the reality is that you couldn't go to banks. If you want cheaper, go to banks. I mean, literally, if you want to run your business in a cheaper manner, go to banks. Other things, the only thing that the city of North Plains as a business cost has traditionally been higher, but it's getting better, has been water, the cost of water. We just raised water rates for the first time in 12 years. Just did July 1st. Water rates for businesses and for residents water rates for businesses and residents had to be set very high about 12-15 years ago, because there was an arsenic plume discovered below the city, and well source of water for the city couldn't be done without life safety hazard problems. So the city, in emergency manner, had to fund a pipeline for fresh water from the city of Hillsborough. Residents and businesses of North Plains had to pay for that pipeline. So about 12-15 years ago, water rates were set, and unfortunately they had to be set high because this little town had to pay for this not cheap right-of-way and pipeline to bring water in a 16-inch pipe up to the city of North Plains. Since then, the city council has refused to change water rates. And in the meantime, other water providers, Joint Water Commission, Tualatin Valley Water District, they have been investing in infrastructure and raising their rates. So in about 5 years, North Plains actually, it's only raising its rates now by inflation. But here in about 5 years, North Plains is actually going to shockingly have one of the more competitive water rates too, but it hasn't been that way. We're getting there, but it hasn't been that way. So I guess the bottom line is, I would love to work with you on questions having to do with cost of business in the city, and are there other areas where we could do better? I would love to learn. But the reality is, you'd have to look long and hard to find a city as far as costs go, to be even cheaper than we are.
I feel like I just learned a bunch of stuff I didn't know. Arsenic. And it seems like it's an opportunity for marketing that I don't think I've been in a conversation. You just laid out a bunch of stuff. It's good that it was caught by the reporter, so we.
He's a wealth of information, honestly. He's holding back most of the time, but he give you all kinds of.
Okay. We're aware. Bill's a wealth of knowledge.
I'm a sponge.
Your shirt that says I'm a sponge.
We'll be about the
Maybe a
next
little
debate.
shriveled up sponge.
Yeah, he was gonna cut it out.
I was gonna say, I'm a sponge. It's gonna be the most shriveled up
So,
sponge.
the direct quote.
Beat up.
Okay, so. Mike and team, is that enough, do you think, to kind of try to put together some like high level categories that we want to discuss related to the survey? And also that would probably invite a lot of other discussion with the chamber, but anything else from your purview that you think would be helpful to discuss?
I mean, I'd say if anybody has any questions that they think of, like, oh, I should have, put that in there.
Yeah.
But other than that, I think that's.
Maybe data can help us with some questions.
Does anybody have any background in phone app development?
At a left field.
Serious question?
Yeah, it's serious.
Yeah, before I was a commercial banker, no.
Okay, no, fair question. That's fine.
Is it specific to a type of app? For the city, but
Well, one thing I've kind of sat on, and it has to do with something that you're trying to do is, I would love to launch a buy local club that was driven by QR codes in an app that keeps track of your spending and adjusts your water bill accordingly. Back when the buy local club operated during COVID times, Cameron's on, she knows, she can speak to this. Those poor business owners, Cameron and Gabe, bless them. But they had to keep track of little coffee shop frequent buyer cards and kept track of every individual person who came in that was a resident and had a water account. And they would have to keep track of spending by that individual by their water account for a month. And this went on a few months. And then I would collect all those. And then I had to turn that into data in Excel and then credit people's water bills for spending it on local businesses, because we gave a certain amount of money they spent at local businesses as a resident. We went and credited a percentage of their spending. We reduced their water bill by how much they spent at a local business. I don't want to track that with those cards again. I mean, it was insane. It was old technology. But if we had businesses had a QR code or it was QR code and really kind of a point of sale tracking, that could be done. I run, I don't, but the city has its water utility, and that's a possibility.
That is super smart. I just Googled and didn't find it. And I bet you AI and a high school or college kid could figure it out in 2 weeks.
yeah,
I
I
don't doubt
don't
it.
know if you would need like a full developed app, like if you had a QR code, it could just take you to a web page where you could input your address.
Still about 4 or 5 arm lengths from my competence.
I think that
That's good.
recognizing that our subgroup completed our first smart goal.
Oh, very
Woo!
Michael led the group to achieve its.
The resume building. Yeah.
Well, Bill, good question. I think that's something for all of us to take away and think about how can we do that? And not only that, I'm thinking not only the incentive to shop, but just having all the local businesses you could shop at. It could even be a commercial business, right? It
Did
doesn't have to
any of
be-
you guys take advantage of that program?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, I can.
Kevin's raising her hand.
It was such a great thing that they came up with.
Yep.
And I would see Facebook posts from residents and counselors and, saying, I buy fresh flowers at Robinson's Floral every week and, that kind of stuff. And it gets you some, it gets you rewards, it gets them business. It was a great program.
That's funny that you brought that up, Bill, because when you guys were talking about passports and stuff, I was gonna mention the buy local thing, but I didn't want to set you into a like PTSD tizzy. But yeah, we used to keep track of it on like just our like order sheet, like what people ordered, and like since I've known a lot of people, I was like, oh, I even know what their address is, like put it on the data sheet and stuff. But I loved the buy local program. I thought it was great.
Definitely opportunity to bring it back and streamline it a little more.
And the great thing about it is not costing the business anything, other than an effort if they have to write it down on a big tracking sheet.
Follow people home after they.
Not do that.
Okay, any other points of feedback or topics for the survey as well as our work session? So I think for September, the work session with the chamber will focus on maybe the survey topics. And that'll help just kind of drive the conversation of how we can partner together on that.
And if we can at least put in the pitch for it, then next step, how can we partner to go visit some? Because that's one of our smart goals.
Now you're wanting to close some smartphones.
Someone does it? No, there's.
Feeling a little less than, Lisa.
Does the chamber coming to us or are we going to the chamber?
They're coming
They'll
up.
come here. I don't know how many or who, but we'll leave that up to Mr. Barron.
Coming here.
Before we adjourn, Bill, did you have any topics? Anything you wanted to say?
He's looking at me crazy because I asked him a sidebar conversation.
Yeah, so, I guess I'm trying to think of what would be the big thing to update on. I don't know if you're paying attention or have the ability to follow city council and what's been going on, but council is having us staff kind of come up with what's called a UGB relook process. The vote in May, council heard residents say, we don't like, or we're concerned about, or we want to learn more about this UGB expansion, and we're not crazy about it right now. And so we're going through a process that we hope to, on September 3rd, we're going to bring to council a new expanded relook advisory committee. It's going to be a bigger and slightly different committee than what looked at the UGB expansion process before. And there's going to be kind of an intensive public outreach process and committee process that kind of goes over things and takes a look at things. And with this kind of new bigger group, does a relook and comes up with new recommendations to city council about urban growth boundary expansion. So having said that, I just want to confirm that the plan is for the EDC, for the Economic Development Commission, to have a seat like it did before on this advisory committee. And it sounds to me like the EDC Urban Growth Boundary Subcommittee needs to figure out which member should be on that committee.
we'll visit that one.
Okay, you and,
And it's, yep. Approved.
well,
It'll
you,
be me.
okay, but having said that, what I do want to make clear is that one of the changes to the advisory committee makeup is that we're going to expand the committee to include 8 new at-large seats. 6 of them will be for residents of the city of North Plains. 2 seats will be for those who were against or voted against the UGB ordinance in May. 1 will be for a resident at large who voted for the UGB ordinance. 1 will be somebody who, for whatever reason, decided not to vote. It was a May primary. Maybe they are very active and engaged. They're an active and engaged citizen, but the fact that they're independent or they already knew who the party nominee would be for the presidential race, they didn't bother to vote local in the anything else. Anyway, we want one of those folks on the committee. And then we also want 2 residents who are not registered to vote or can't register to vote. But they live here, own property, own a home, and basically couldn't be heard from during in May in the election. 2 other seats are being added. 1 is for unincorporated 97133. So that'll be somebody living outside the city, but in our zip code. And then somebody who lives on the south side of the freeway in what was called the South Expansion area. And that's just an at-large seat. You just have to live south of the freeway in Gordon to Beach to Glencoe, Highway 26, the trapezoid formed by those 4 transportation routes. Anyway, so what that means is that if you are not the EDC official on the new advisory committee, you still are welcome to apply to be a resident or non-resident member of the committee. And I will say the application's online. We can share that link. And the big criteria we're looking for really are people who are, whatever they think about it, basically have an interest, a commitment, and even better, a track record of volunteering and kind of being part of the community in some way. I mean, it's an involved, complicated thing. We don't want people just to join and take pot shots or not be constructive. You know what I mean? So we're putting a lot of weight on people who are engaged and will be engaged.
Thank you, Bill.
Mm-hmm.
So what type of application process would it be if they would like to be included?
There's a fillable application form online. It'll look pretty similar to what you filled out, actually quite similar to what you filled out to be on the EDC. But the bottom line is it just asks some questions. If you're a resident, it asked how you voted in the election, if you did, or if you didn't, or if you could even register. And then it just asks about fillable form, what you, why you want to be on the committee, those sorts of things. And
We're also a business owner, a local business owner.
as a matter of fact, there is a new chamber member seat on the committee,
Okay.
and he's staring at you right now. Yes. Yes, we can.
Yeah, it's right on if you go to the homepage under news, it's the very first news item.
I get it.
Yep.
So if not you, if you have a neighbor or a friend or a relative who you think would be wonderful to apply for the committee, please let them know. Hmm?
The house 2 doors down.
Mhm. Sure.
Thank you, Bill.
You're welcome.
Anything else we can assist with that, like get spreading the word officially as a commission? Anything we can assist with?
One other detail, applications are due by Monday, August 20, is it 26th or 28th? Whatever the Monday is, 26th. Monday, August 26th, 4 p.m.
Okay. And do we need for this group, do we need a formal nomination application submittal for our EDC representation?
No, there's an EDC seat. It's just a matter of who the anointed one is, so to speak. Yeah.
We bow to you, Eric.
We can sort out.
Hey, baby.
Yeah. Okay, great. Any other topics we want to discuss? Questions?
I mean, I do have something, but I know we're running late, so I'll keep it really quick. Bill, the sidebar question I asked is this body allowed to? There's something on the ballot, this November that impacts businesses quite a bit, impacts the economy quite a bit. It's the being portrayed as the $750 for all, but what that's gonna come out of is a business tax that the governor's already said that it's not gonna generate enough revenue to supply this. Gonna put a burden on businesses, and so when we think about economic development, a 3% tax on top of existing taxes for businesses is not going to stimulate the economy. What it's going to do is it's going to raise prices because those companies that are gonna get taxed, they're not gonna say, I'm not gonna eat this, they're gonna put it back on their customers. So it could also drive businesses out. I know Washington County Chambers gotten involved, Forest Grove Chambers gotten involved, they've had statements. Is that anything that our body is capable of doing, or is that really something that has to be presented to the chamber?
As an advisory body to city council, I mean, unless Lori just has the answer on the top of her head, my thought is we can look into that, but I think number one is I think you could talk to chamber about it and ask what their position is. I also think that you could take up the issue and communicate with city council. You've looked into it, and perhaps city council takes a position based on what you found.
Thank you. I guess that'll be more of a discussion for next time if we dive into it, but just something, I think, one, we should all look into it between now and then. I live in that space, so I've done nothing but look at it. And I just don't think it's gonna be good for businesses.
What's the, we're trying to find information on it. Is there a?
Yes, it is, oh, I just had it pulled up. It is IP 2024-017. It's being advertised as the Oregon Rebate 2024 by those that are pushing it.
Thank you. Anyone else? Councilor Martinez, anything on the line?
No, I don't think so. Thank you guys for having me.
Thanks for joining this evening. And thank you to the public as well for joining this evening. Hopefully, we get a good review. Back to the
Yes.
I think we're all set. Thanks, everyone. We'll go ahead and adjourn 7:21 PM.
Gavel.
It would be more impressive if the table wasn't.
Bye, everyone.
Have a good night.